bragging, I couldn't get Pete to stop talking. I'll speak to the anchor ego issue. I started out in Los Angeles at Big News with Jerry Dunphy. And any man who walked into the newsroom when Jerry Dunphy was anchoring Big News, he regarded as potential competition, and he treated you accordingly. I remember once he and Jack LaLanne were making fun of me because I was wearing a camel's hair coat. And they said, remember when we used to wear camel's hair coats back in the old days? I guess when you see it long enough, you'll realize that they're not appropriate for this climate. You know? It's that kind of stuff. So when I went to Channel 4 to be the weekend anchor, I had no idea what to expect from Jess Marlowe, who was at the time, of course, the anchorman extraordinaire. And Jess could not have been kinder to me. He was helpful, he was not just friendly. He gave me advice and counsel, told me which producers he liked, which writers he liked, which was, of course, with all of the producers and the writers who were working there, and he gave me every kind of assistance that he possibly could. Maybe he realized I wasn't competition for him, I don't know. But in any case, I'll always be grateful to him for the way that he received me and the kindness that he showed. Kelly said it'd only take 2 minutes, and I don't want to go on much longer. I won't mention anything except that we did have one parallel experience, which was that I also co-anchored with Val Zavala. I got there before Jess. He realized what a good deal it was, and he lasted longer than I did at KCAT. And of course, I also co-anchored with that beautiful young anchor woman at Channel 4 when Jess wasn't available, Kelly Lang. We all had a crush on Kelly Lang, and we still do.
Yeah, but you married everybody.
I never got around to you, I was thinking when I heard that Jess had passed, what is it about this man that has endeared him to so many people in so many ways, not just on the air, but off the air, as we all know from what we heard today and what we all remember. And I'm reminded of Confucius. Confucius said that the superior man is one who is so comfortable in the universe that he makes other people comfortable too. That's the way I remember Jess.
So, first I want to say that when I first heard I was going to write and then produce with Jess Marlowe, I was terrified because I had heard all these words that we've been throwing around today. Integrity, intelligence, pillar of the journalism business. I thought, wow, that sure doesn't sound like me. And I was worried that he would not accept me, but of course he did, because he accepted everybody and made them feel welcome and comfortable and helped them and taught them things. But I do want to share one story. And Kelly and Pete, maybe you can help me with this one. There was a goodbye reel for somebody, and I swear this must have been like many decades ago. And the regular usual stuff where everyone was talking and saying, hey, goodbye, so-and-so, we'll miss you, that kind of thing. And it got to Jess, and he's like, hey, good luck to you. It's been wonderful working with you, and so forth. And the camera then pans down to the floor, and we see that Jess has dropped his trousers and is standing there in his boxer shorts. And the room at this goodbye party went nuts. You think it was the funniest comedy routine ever. They laughed for like 10 minutes. And the point of this is that when Jess does something like that, it's like so unexpected. It's hilarious because of the integrity and such a gentleman. If anyone else in here did that, they would be like, oh, ha, ha, that would be it. But that was Jess.
Yeah. What about? And Wendy, do you remember when he was giving some kind of a speech to the press? Were all over us, giving us all kinds of shit for, not being serious and not having dignity. And Jess was on camera, and he said, yes, as a matter of fact, we do have dignity. And when he got finished with the speech, he did 2 cartwheels off the stage. Remember that one? Yeah. Marx, where are you, Rick?
Thank you, Kelly. As a journalist, Jess was the consummate pro. A reporter, anchor. He was clear, insightful, never frazzled. But it is the man I remember most, as decent a man as I have ever known. I worked with Jess for over 25 years. as a writer, producer, field producer. And when I went to Cal State University Northridge, Jess honored my request to be our commencement speaker. I had the privilege of producing the 5 o'clock news in the 1970s and field producing for Jess in the 1980s, including a memorable 5-week trip to the Soviet Union that resulted in an Emmy. And I also had the privilege and pleasure of becoming Jess's friend. Jess was the leader of our newsroom of some 200 after he arrived at KNBC in the mid-1960s. Some background. He came shortly after KNBC became the first station in the country to expand its early evening news to 2 hours. It was a diverse newsroom. Veterans from the past regime, a host of newcomers from LA and around the country, liberals, conservatives, diversity hires, women, minorities, hippies. It was Jess more than anyone who brought us together. He did it in so many ways. He would arrive early each day and have lunch with me and the writers, and anyone else who happened along, except on those days when he would speak to community groups. But the key were the get-togethers at his home. Sunday brunches, dinners, Jess and Phyllis would entertain different groups from the newsroom, sometimes 10 to 15 at a time. Those get-togethers with Jess and Phyllis made us a family. Jess was warm and generous, kind. As it's been said already, he had no ego, no pretensions. He was exactly the same off the air as on. Caring, bright, cheerful, and one cool customer under pressure, a mensch. For Jess, it was never about himself. It was about the news and his colleagues. He was a special man who touched so many lives and created so many cherished memories. His was a life well lived. God bless.
Give up, Dee Dee Brown. And for Dee Dee, I really have to say, honey, 45 seconds, okay? We all know you're Dee Dee Brown. We all get her emails, and here she is.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee Brown. I worked with Pete Noyes. I was his assistant for 10 years, and I'm still saying, so I'm doing well. I love Pete to death. I have a personal story about Jess Marlowe. During the Rodney King verdict, I lived in Inglewood, and I had to drive through a very dangerous area coming to work because the city was under fire. We were pulling like 12-hour shifts. 9 o'clock, the first night of the rioting, Phyllis Marlowe called me and said, Dee Dee, you're not going home tonight. I'm like, oh, I'm not? She said, no, you live in Inglewood. You can't drive through that area late at night. When Jess gets off the air, you follow him to our house and you're spending the night with us. I said, oh, I am? I had no choice. I followed Jess home. I walked in. I smelled hot cookies in the oven. It was like I walked on the set of Ozzie and Harriet. Phyllis had warm cookies, hot milk. We stayed up all night talking about the city under siege and everything. We stayed up till about 1 in the morning. When I finally went to bed, laid out on the bed was a gown in the bedroom, a fresh new gown, and a toothbrush and toothpaste. I walked into heaven. It was like going home. I felt so at home. And I have one other story. When I first started working at Channel 4, my father died, passed away December 14, 1973. It was right before Christmas. Jess and Phyllis called me, and my mother and I spent our first Christmas after my father passed with them and their family. I can't say anymore.
That was Jess. And look who we got over here. We got Bart Cannistra, who you were there before I was there. You were there for how many years?
42, starting from 16.
42 years, oh my gosh. Bart Cannistra.
You know, these occasions, as we all grow older and have these occasions where we remember those of the past, I'm always bemused because it's like, well, the guy ate apple pie 3 times a week, called his mother every day, helped ladies cross the streets, did all of these things, and there's no one really like that. And so it presents a real problem here to remember Jess, because he really was like that in a way. The man you saw on stage anchoring a show was the same guy who sat across from me on occasion having Chinese food at the corner little dive. He was the same guy. And early on in my career as an editor at NBC, I remember, I'll give you one quick incident. Angus Campbell, who was also passed, and I and Jess stayed after the 11 o'clock show one day to discuss an incident where some unfortunate soul had committed suicide on camera. It was the early days of Live, when Live was on the air and unedited. And he was so fair, so concerned, and just completely honest about what was going on. He taught me so much about how we would handle information in this society. And as a young person just entering the field, I had great respect for him and great admiration. You know, he was fair, honest, and considerate, and that's something we can all aspire to still. Thank you, Kevin.
Well, you know, we could sit here and we could talk about Jess Marlowe for a month and a half, you know that. But they're gonna throw us out of here, so. Just know there are a lot more that can be said about Jess. And know too that Jess is with us. He's right here, right now. Jess is with us. He's vibrating at a higher frequency, always did. So we can't see him, but he can see us, and he's here. So farewell, buddy, till we see you again, and we will. We're gonna leave you now with NBC4's Obit to Jess, after which we will tiptoe out of here. Jess will do a cartwheel, I know, as he usually did, his exit. You've seen them. This video was produced and reported by Conan Nolan. Goodbye to Jess.
A wreath over a very familiar name on the Hollywood Walk of Fame today. This is a truly great loss for all of us here at NBC4. TV legend and mentor to so many. Anchor Jess Marlowe has passed away. Jess died yesterday from complications of Alzheimer's. And we've asked Conan Nolan now to share with you what Jess Marlowe meant to all of us and the community he served. Conan?
Well, Chuck, Jess Marlowe was a man whose character and professionalism weaved its way into the DNA of a community. That community was ours, and now we mourn the loss of a man who practiced his craft at its highest level.
He arrived at a time when local television was taking root as the medium of choice for those seeking news and information, a responsibility Jess Marlowe honored every day during his 40 years in Southern California.
Good evening. In this evening's news,
An Illinois native, Jess Marlowe started at KNBC TV in Los Angeles in 1966. Colleagues included Tom Snyder, Brian Gumbel, Connie Chung, and Tom Brokaw. Here speaking of his friend in 1997 at the unveiling of a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame.
The most respected journalist in Southern California, a man whose reputation for fairness and integrity was without challenge.
Through fires, floods, earthquakes, and civil unrest, Jess Marlowe's Midwestern stoicism and fidelity to the truth helped establish him as a voice of reason and trust for millions.
the Mekong River and its hundreds of miles of tributaries.
He also turned the picture tube into a window where Southern Californians saw the world. From the jungles of Vietnam to Tiananmen Square, the Soviet Union, Castro's Cuba, helping a public navigate an increasingly complex world. His friends and colleagues saw him as ever young, but always committed to helping his community understand all that was around them, and always optimistic that despite so many changes in the landscape of mass communication, there would always remain a respect for the audience.
Tom Brokaw had a statement later today saying that he was a journalist of the highest order and a very popular person in the newsroom. We all knew that. They started together in 1966. Of course, Jess Marlowe, he pointed out, also had a terrific sense of humor. When Evel Knievel had one of his many crashes, he said, I had lived, well, Evel can go real fast, but he thinks real slow. God bless Jess.
Yeah, and I truly appreciate the picture we have of Jess, that smiling picture, because that's the image we will always have. And if Colleen were here, she would tell you the same thing. He was such a happy man, such a happy individual, and actually got me on rollerblades for the first time. We would go around the Rose Bowl there.
Twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We'd go at 8:30 in the morning and scare people. The whole night.
We would scare everybody.
And Fritz, I understand he was really instrumental in your career, making the transition, helping you make the transition.
Well, he was just a lovely man. You know, you know this better than I do. After you do stories that involve tragedy for years in your career, especially violence to children, you learn a professional way to sort of go through it and not show your emotions. But every time he had to do a story about something that involved children that was tragic, he always welled up a little bit in his eyes. He never lost his humanity. And I'll tell you, he was a titan. He was very close friends with Walter Cronkite. He was a close friend of Francis Gary Powers, who was shot down in the U-2 and became a helicopter pilot in L.A. He had friends all over the place. And there is no lovelier man that ever had a job in this business.
And that was a very difficult time when he announced Francis Gary Powers' death. Of course, he died in a helicopter crash for this station. Yeah. And it was up to Jess to deliver that information to Southern California. He fought through it, but it was very difficult.
And you might remember this. We did sort of an exchange program with a Soviet anchor person. I think it was just after the fall of the wall. Svetlana was her name, and he was the host of This Woman Coming to L.A. So my parents were in town, so he said, I want you to come to this dinner with Svetlana and bring your mom and dad. Well, my mom and dad are from the mountains of Pennsylvania. It was the greatest honor that he included my parents in this beautiful evening for this international journalist. And he was just a lovely person.
And it wasn't just anchoring the news conference. Jess Marlowe, I don't know how many decades he did that.
One of the beautiful things, though, is that he loved getting out in the community, because you can't do this job without knowing what people are thinking and saying their hopes and their fears, and that was his passion.
And our love goes out to his wife, Phyllis, and his daughter, Susan. Jess Marlowe, who passed away in Colorado.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you all for coming, including thank you, Jess, my buddy. He's here. And give you back to Bob.
Big round of applause. She's been tireless in helping me put this together. And I know Jess, wherever he is feeling the love. A couple of closing things, and then let's get back to talking among yourselves. We've got this room till 3 o'clock. First off, the next time we meet, and I know we picked up some new members, we'll be back at Victorio's in North Hollywood. That will be on January 25th, 2015. It is a Saturday, 24th or 25th. You can look it up. You know I'll remind you plenty of times before that. As I always do, is there anybody in the room who would like to say anything to the group? Val, come on up. This is Val Zavala, of course, at KCET.
I have not seen that video, and I forgot how talented Philip Bruce is. And so on behalf of him, he's now, as you know, some high-level news executive, head of the station or the news division in Texas, Houston, and he's just doing fantastically. And I'm very happy to say that if that picture had been widened out, I'd be standing next to him. And I never thought about it in terms of my doing the last broadcast with Jess. It was great. That's one cute story he told. He said he was doing an interview with somebody sometime. And you know how you used to do reversals? And so then they did the reversals, and he asked the questions again in reverse. And the person said, "That's not the question you asked me." And he says, "No, but that's the question you answered." He was so clever and so bright. It was my honor to be part of his career. Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr.
a giant thank you to NBC Universal and everybody who is here from NBC who helped make this possible, and as well as Wolfgang Puck Catering, which lowered its price but kept its quality so that we could continue to do $20 including tip. I thank you. The final thing is, having all of you here means a tremendous amount to me. You've been long-time personal friends and colleagues and dear friends, and this organization has allowed us to perpetuate that friendship. God bless every one of you.